What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? I am coming to you live tonight. We're actually probably going to do a little bit of a late night session because I want to show you all what we're going to do for class on Wednesday. And then I also want to introduce you to Coach G and show you some DTF stuff. So we might be pulling a late night one just to bring this to you. So we'll do a separate live for the DTF part. But right now, I'm just going to take you through what we're going to do in class. And we are going to pretty much build this art from scratch. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start with basically the blank template, and you're gonna of course have access to that. Give me just a moment. Let me make sure you all can hear me and that the connection is good and everything. I know we have a little delay here, so I'm just checking in with you. And if you all don't know, you can get the free, I'm going to give you this for class so you don't have to look for it. But if you go to innatelab.com and you type in the word free, you'll see a few things there. And one of them is this all over blank template. This is what we're going to be using. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and include it in the class files for you. And that's what you're going to start from. So although I'm going to have the template for you after class, the whole point is for class, you're going to build your own template. Okay. So for those of you who've been asking me about the whole from scratch deal, definitely I want you all to see how you're going to progress through the steps. And pretty much you'll have exactly what I have. So give me just a moment. I need to pull up that blank template really quickly. And this is going to be the 21M. All right. I'm going to copy this one and put it in y'all's folder. And my apologies, y'all. I had to reschedule class this past week because we had two back-to-back workshops. We did Houston and New Orleans, and pretty much in a 1 week time span. And it was just so encompassing that I was not able to do a class between them. So we're gonna make up for that, of course. You know, I always come through for y'all, and we're gonna make up time, and I'm gonna give you all content and valuable content at that. So we will be doing this Wednesday. Okay, so I'm trying to give you a good little head start so you know what we're gonna be doing. All right, so I'm going to open up this one. I'm going to call this one 155. So we'll know specifically that we're going to build from this. All right, so of course, most of you are familiar with this blank template. If you're not, like I said, go ahead and go to Innate Lab and download this template for free. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I did Control 0. And then let me do, I think you all also like this. I'm going to turn on my little mouse tracker here, and I think that'll help you see what I'm clicking on. All right, so this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to go ahead and give you all of the materials that you need to build this. Now, if you don't want to use the photos that I have, you're absolutely able to use 3 photos, no more than 3 photos, and they already have to have the background cut out. I'm going to recommend that you use Remove BG if you don't know how to remove the background, because it will set you to where you'll be able to do this exactly from scratch. All right, so here's what we have kind of as our working design, and this looks very familiar because this is a template that is on the Innate Lab website. However, we're optimizing it, making it a smart template and a smart color template, and we're going to change some elements out today, okay? So I want you all to see all of that. Now, I'm not going to do exactly everything online today because we're going to go through this in class, but I am going to show you how you're going to bring your elements in and what you're going to do, okay? So my first thing is I'm going to go ahead and bring in a background, right? So I gave y'all this cloud background. Let's go ahead and bring that in, see what it does. We want to make this large enough to cover the shirt here. Press enter to lock in that transformation. That's done. Then we're going to drag in the road here. And it's just black and white. Press enter to lock in that transformation. Drag that below. And of course, we're going to have some issues with which part of the layer we want to show. And I'm going to pull this one down here. Well, you know what? I'll show it to you, so then that way we can kind of toggle between what we need and where we are. Let's see. We're going to type in a word here. Let's type in long live, and then we'll do Dolph separately. And the font that we're using for this one is, well, let's go down here and grab it. This one is American Captain. So we're going to take our text tool and do long live. And the text is already on American Captain. Now I'm going through this very fast. We will not be going through it like this in class, okay? So keep in mind that what I'm showing you right now is just demonstrating what we're going to be doing. And what I did was alt click and drag that text. And as a matter of fact, let me wait until I apply my layer effects to it. All right, so we have our text here. We have some wings, and of course I provided those wings for you. So let's go ahead and drag and drop those in. There are our wings. Oh, let's see what else we need. Let's go ahead and drag the photo in. And we're gonna have 2 different photos. We're gonna have photos like our main image, and then we're gonna have 2 watermarked images. But let me go back for just a moment because I have 3 specific images. Number 1, 4, and 5. And I'm just gonna name them appropriately. So when you all do this, you'll have the exact same photos and all that I have. So this is photo 1. I'm going to call them photo 1, 2, and 3. Photo 2. And photo 3. So for right now, we're just going to bring in photo 1. And I'm going to bring the wings on top of the photo. And before I even play with this photo, y'all know how I feel about hard lines. So let's go ahead and get rid of those hard lines. Let's add a layer mask. We'll grab our paintbrush tool here, and then we're going to fade off the bottom of this image here. It makes me feel better about it just having a natural flow to it, especially when we're collaging and adding all these layers and elements. All right, and let's see, what other elements are we going to bring in? We're going to bring in to the background these little equalizer waves. I'm sure it has something to do with sound and music. So this is something that we're going to bring in just to give it a little bit of design flair and some meaning to it, right? So let's go ahead and bring that in. Another element you all may want to bring in are doves, and I have doves in that folder. We'll bring those in at another time, but for this one, I don't think we're going to do the doves. You'll have that option to bring that in. Right now I'm bringing in, this is what I call the money frame, the floating money frame. And this was created from several different individual dollars. But our point is we basically want to build from scratch and show you the process, the thought process, the way that you lay out, the way that you think about the elements that are going to be incorporated into your design. And I'm also showing you how I go through my process of basically making a template. Because everything that I'm doing with intention on being able to, use this in a way that I can use it again. I can repurpose it for, doesn't necessarily have to be remembrance. It could be something celebratory, such as like a birthday or graduation. And it still has a very unique feel to it every time you change a color, every time you change the subject. All right, so here's another thing we're going to do. Let me go back to my reference image just a moment. I have given you, now you always say that you like the way that the letters or the text looks metallic or blinged out. So I'm giving you this bling diamond ASL file. Well, the thing about it is all you have to do is right click and open with and choose the Photoshop program. And in this case, do I have 2021 open? Let's see. And what it does is it automatically installs it into your Photoshop. So now, when I go to add a layer style here, I'm going to go to the word long live, and I'm going to go to my effects, and let's just go to where it says blending options. I'm going to go to my styles now. And see how I have bling, diamond, gold, silver there? I can open that folder up, and there's my layer style. Now this particular instance, I think we're going to make it gold versus silver. So all I have to do is turn off the black stroke here and the black stroke there, and now it's gold. And then my drop shadow, if I feel like it's a little too heavy, I can adjust it. And I can do the same thing to the thickness of the stroke there. But I'm just gonna leave it just like this, and we'll adjust it a little bit later. All right, so I have text, I have my main photo. I brought in a couple of elements. I think we're also going to bring in two images here. I have the dolphin pendant and his the PRE logo pendant. So let's go ahead and grab one. Control, I can grab the other, and I can drag them in at the same time. Now this is going to be totally up to you where you want to do placement. So because I have transform controls on, I can see my sizing. I'm just going to place this one up top. Hit enter to lock in my transformation. And then this dolphin, I'm going to drag above the wings. Okay. So we're building. We're not there yet, but we're building. So I have the text. wings. Photo, I have the money frame, and I want to go ahead and create this area down here for the dates. And all that is you copying and pasting the text. I do not like to type it just because it's more of a chance that you're gonna potentially mistype something. So if you're spelling someone's name, especially for a memorial piece, you're spelling someone's name or you're getting dates, you want to be able to copy and paste that information so that the human error does not mess up something, you know, that is highly important to your customers. So let's go ahead and just get our text tool here. I'm just going to click anywhere that there's not existing text, and it's the font here is Times New Roman, so we would type that in, and everybody has Times New Roman. Then I'm going to paste the text that I would have gotten either from my text message or maybe my email. Let's paste that. And I can't really see it right now, but that's okay. I'll make sure that the color is just black for right now. All right, let's see if we have everything brought in. Need to give y'all some clouds. I think I already have some clouds that I've given to you. Let me check in my folder. Did I give y'all front clouds? I did not. So let me give you some front clouds. I'm just exporting elements as PNGs just so that you have exactly the elements that I have. All right, so now let's go to our assets folder. So you'll have this folder. Assets just mean the individual elements that you use to create something. So these are all of our assets here. Let's grab the front clouds and we're going to drag and drop those onto the artboard. There we go. And this one is at 82% opacity. I'm going to go ahead and crank it all the way up. So when I export it, it has full opacity. So you have the option to turn down the opacity a little bit. There we go. See, it's a little more opaque now. It still has some transparency to it. It's a little bit more opaque. And this is going to go in front of the photo. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be teaching you is how I group stuff. So eventually we get to where we have a lot of layers and we need certain effects to apply to certain things and not others. And that's what I create groups for. So we're also going to be creating some groups in this session. All right. And we're going to be creating our very own smart color. All right, so I think I have all of the elements that I wanted to pull in. I'm just double checking, except for the photo. So let's bring in our two photos that we're going to have in the background here. And I'm going to make sure that I go to the layer below my existing photo. And let's go ahead and drag those two photos. So that would be photo number 2 and 3. So 2 and 3. I'll drag and drop those into the artboard. One here, and then we'll put one on the other side here. And then of course, let's go ahead and fade off the bottom of the image here. So let's create a layer mask. Let's grab our brush tool and then we're going to brush off the end of that just to make it a little softer. And I'm doing this really fast, but like I said, we won't be doing it this fast in class. All right, so I'm going to make sure I have all of my elements on my artboard. Everything's here. There we go. Yep, no hard lines. Y'all know how I am. I can't stand the hard lines. It just makes it look like you could have tried a little bit harder and made your transitions look smoother. Okay, so now we get into, we have our elements on here, and I know most of you probably know how to do up until this point. Bring elements onto Photoshop. You have the idea right there in your head, right? You know how you want it to kind of play out, but you don't know how to do some of the simple things that make the art flow or give your art the respect that it really holds in your mind, right? So let's play with some of those things that will basically bring it to life. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and select number photo 2 and photo 3. I'm going to hold down control, select both of those, and I'm going to do control G. That means I'm going to group it. It turns into a group 1, but I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to call this back photos. Okay. And then for the photo with the wings, I'm going to hold down control, grab the wings, and I'm going to group those, and I'm going to call this photo with wings. Now, of course, if you don't want the wings, you just turn off the wings. Or if it's a photo that's not a remembrance image, doesn't require wings at all, of course, you turn that off. So we have our photo with wings, and then we have our back photos. Now, the text that I have here that says long live, if you look at our original image here, the long live is behind the photo here, but it's in front of the background photos. So let's go ahead and make that work. Let's take the long live, put it behind the behind the photo with wings, but in front of the back photos. Boom, there we go. All right, the next thing is we're going to duplicate this text up here. So the long live, we're going to take it, hold down Alt, click and drag, and basically we're making a copy of it. But this text needs to go in front of everything. Okay, so this text, we're going to double click on the T and turn it to Dolph, D-O-L-P-H. And we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit larger here too. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see where these guidelines are. You don't want your text to be coming outside of. So let's grab our word Dolph. Let's bring it down here. We don't want to go too much outside of this area because we're also creating a 13 by 19 out of this design. So we want to be able to not cut off anything important while we're pressing the all over, of course. But we also want to make sure that when we design, we're designing with utility in mind. We want to be able to use this again and make sure that it is, you know, it looks good as a 13 by 19 design as well. All right, so I think we have every element that we're going to use in here. Ready to go. This is just some effects and some things that we need to do to kind of pull this together. Now for the long live up top, I want you to see from the original image, it kind of has an interesting effect to it. If you didn't know how to do this, we're going to learn in class. We'll double click on Oh, we just click on the T here, double click the text, and then it gives us an option to warp it. So I'm going to go ahead and if I wanted it to look exactly like this, then I'm going to type in these exact numbers. I'm going to choose the arch style, 16 for the bend, and -36 for the horizontal distortion. So 16 and -36, and arch is what I'm going to remember. So double click. We're going to do arch, not arc, but arch. 16, I believe it was. And was it 16 and -36? -36. And that kind of gives me a perspective, curved look there. So I'll hit OK. Now I don't know how I moved it just now, but it's supposed to be right there where we had it before. So now I can make this a little bit larger here. I'm going to make it a little bit taller. And already this is really coming together. All right, now something is kind of bothering me right now. We have the background with the clouds. You have the road background. But my background where the clouds are, it's just harshly hitting this. And I don't want that to happen. So let's do this. I'm going to make sure that we have full coverage up top. And I'm going to create a layer mask here. The same way we do when we fade off the bottom of the photos. We're going to fade off the bottom of the sky right now. Let's grab the gradient tool. If you don't see a gradient tool, it's probably under your paint bucket. We're going to make sure that we have, go to basics, make sure you have the foreground color to transparent selected. I'm going to click and drag while we hold down the shift key to keep that straight. And there we have a nice faded sky right there. Okay, now keep in mind, you all are going to do all of this. You're going to build this from scratch with just the images and the assets that I give you, okay? Now for the Equalizer Waves, basically I've applied the same effect that we did here. So we can go to our effects now, and we can just click on blending options just to get to the effects. Let's go up to styles, and you'll see that that style is still saved down here. And it's going to look a little too extreme, and we're just going to play with that just a little bit. So right now the stroke was 10 and 10. We're going to change the stroke size to maybe 6. Go to our next stroke, change it to 6 pixels. And basically what we're doing is we're just shrinking the stroke down a little bit because it looks a little heavy being on those little small dots. There we go. Now because I want silver instead of gold, oh no, I want gold instead of silver for this one. So that black color overlay is basically turning the gold into silver. I'm going to turn that one off. So the first one and the third one I'm going to turn off. Because one stroke is for the inside of the text, one stroke is for the outside of the text. And now I have gold. And I'm just going to pull this drop shadow to where it just makes sense to me. I don't want you to feel like it has to be any specific way. I just want you to do it to the point where it looks good to you. And I'm going to pull down this opacity a little bit so that it just barely has any drop shadow there. All right, there we go. And then I like to close up. When I'm done with my effects, I like to close up this little window here so it doesn't make my layers tab extremely long. All right, so we have a sky, we have our road background there, Our text is there. Now I want to take my dolphin pendant, and I want it to kind of go on top of the D just a little bit. So I'm going to drag it above the D. There it is. Right, let's do Control T, and I'm going to rotate this. There we go. Now it's not standing out to me, and what I think needs to happen is I think we need a good old drop shadow. So let's go to our effects, and we're going to go to drop shadow. And whatever pops up may be good for you, but of course you can play with the opacity, the distance. Let me show you all something else too. If you are on drop shadow, you can actually change your shadow. So see how I'm moving the shadow around here? And it's taking a little while to do it because we're doing the live stream, but I just want you to see that it does work together. And when you have use global light selected, whenever you're changing the shadow angle in one place, it's going to change the shadow angle in every other place. That way you don't have to worry about it looking like an odd shadow. Like you have a shadow from above, but a shadow from a different direction below, it looks odd. So if you keep this use global light selected, everywhere that you have a drop shadow will change accordingly. Okay, but you can still move the distance and the spread and the opacity independently. So I think I'm happy with that. All right, so let's go ahead and hit OK. The great thing about this is that we can right click and we can copy that layer style, and then we can paste the layer style for the pendant. All right, so you see how the same drop shadow we had appear here also appeared here. And I think I'm going to take this and bring it above the back photos. And let's shrink this down just a little bit. Now I took the pendant top off of the images so that they appear more as images than pendants that you would have to have attached to a chain. If you wanted the ones with the actual pendant tops and you wanted to put a chain on here, that's your prerogative. We're just not going to do it for this class because I want to make sure that we have time to teach you how to pull all of your elements in. All right. So I think now we can focus on making the back images look a little more watermarked. So let's go to our back photos folder. We're going to add a black and white adjustment. So we're going to come down here to our adjustments. Let's do, oops, not levels. My bad, y'all. I'm going to do a black and white adjustment layer. Now, in order to get it just to affect the photos, I have to right click and create a clipping mask. So now you see it's only affecting the images that are in that folder, and that's why we create these groups or these folders too. And let me see what I chose for opacity here. For the back photos, opacity looks like it's 60%. So up here at the top here, let's type in 60 for the opacity. Oops, I lied. I put in 60 for the black and white. That is supposed to be 60 on the folder. So I have to go to the back photos folder, type in 60 for opacity, and there we have it. All right, so finally, we're going to create a smart color, okay? So the smart color is something that a lot of you may have been a little bit timid about, but let's go ahead and do it, and I'll show you that it's not as hard as you may think. So let's go to create a new filler adjustment. I'm gonna go ahead and do a solid color first, just to show you how this works. Let's say I'm gonna choose something that'll show a little bit different. Let's do like a dark green. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm taking off this layer mask here, and I'm going to rename this. I double clicked on it. I'm going to rename this Smart Color 1. Then I'm going to right click, convert that to a smart object. And let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to apply this. I'm going to go ahead and use the blend mode of color. It's just easiest to go ahead and see this color effect change. And I can see like already it's starting to pull things together and give us some grounding with color. And I just want to address, I'm sorry, I was doing a live for a particular reason. It ended up changing up, but just because this is a project that you all want to do, I do want to say, and I put out there my condolences to anyone that's loved or and lost this very, very brilliant spirit, because I don't know if you know, so many of us know, but Young Dolph was also not just an entrepreneur, but he was also a father, and I'm sure son, just a family, friends, and I'm sure so many people are affected by his departure. So I do want to offer my condolences, and I do want to make sure that we do this with love in mind. Every time we work on a remembrance design, we like to put our love and our heart into it. So I want to make sure that we do this the right way. And then if you all need to change it to anything other than remembrance, of course, it can be anything that you want it to be. Okay. I look at this more as a celebratory design than anything else. So I want you all to keep in mind that although we may be designing this a certain way with these elements, that the same way we bring these elements in, you can bring in elements that represent whatever your project is. Now, for this particular class, I want you to use my elements because I don't want to have issues with maybe some of the images that you choose. But the next, well, after this class, you'll be able to showcase your skills in changing out a lot of these elements to whatever you want it to be. Imagine it as a cheer team template that you create. You can imagine it for birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, any occasion, and anything that you can think of course, you can reimagine this, and I want you to. But for this class, we're actually paying homage to Young Dolph. We're creating something that I think that you all will appreciate being able to do from scratch. Because of course, this will be a template that I will give you all the template for free when you do this class. But I want you to understand what goes into this. And it's not easy. It probably took me about 4 or 5 hours to pull this together just to teach it. So when you all pull your elements together, you're going to have an appreciation for the time and the energy that it takes to design, and especially design from scratch. All right, I'm still here. I'm still here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's use a smart color just for specific things right now, okay? For instance, let's take the smart color and use it just to color the sky. So I'm going to drag it all the way down to where the sky is. right above the sky. And notice now that it's coloring anything that's below the sky, even the street. But we don't want it to do that. We only want it to cover the sky. Let's right click, create a clipping mask. And now it solely covers the sky and not the street down here. And I also wanted to be able to recolor the stones and the long live and the Dolph, right? So that same smart color, I'm going to alt click and drag it above the long live. And of course, it's not clipped down, so we have to create a clipping mask. There it is. And this time the color doesn't really do it for me. I want to change the blend mode to, let's try hard light, or maybe linear burn. I'm going to go with hard light, and then let me see what I chose before to make sure that I'm being consistent. Yep, color burn is what we chose for this one. Let's see if color burn works here. Oh yeah, color burn looks good. All right, so color burn is just the blend mode. So it's still the same color, right? Still Smart Color 1. But we just happen to use the blend mode of color burn. Now, depending on what color you choose, a different blend mode may look better. I'm going to alt click and drag this so that it goes also on the word Dolph. It's going to color everything first, and then I'm going to right click, create a clipping mask, and it's going to clip down to Dolph. There we go. The text here for the dates, we're going to make stand out a little bit. Let me go ahead and grab from here what our effects are. And it shouldn't be that bad. So let's see, we have a, I say that, but then I always have a lot of things going on. That's why I love Photoshop. Affinity doesn't allow me to do multiple strokes and a lot of the different effects that I do for the layer styles. So I do have a harder time making some of these effects appear in Affinity. But the same way that I'm doing this, you could absolutely do the same thing in any other design program that allows you to do what we're doing right now. Affinity is one of those programs I think you'll be able to do most of what we're doing except for the effects, for the bling and stuff. Alright, so let's see, I have a stroke of 5 for the outside, and I have black 5, white 15. So let's start with that. So we're going to do a stroke. So let's go to FX. Let's go to stroke. What did I say? 5 and 15. So we'll go to stroke. Both of these are outside strokes. And I'm going to do 5 and 15. 5 is black. Blend mode will be normal. Hit my plus sign. And then the second one, the one below it, we'll make sure is white. And 15. And already that makes it pop out a little bit, right? I think I also have a drop shadow on this one. Let's check that out. Yep, we'll just do a drop shadow and then we'll just pick our drop shadow. All right, so FX, we're going to go down to drop shadow. And that way it makes it pop out just a little bit more. And we can pull in this distance a little bit since the text is so much smaller. Pull in the size and the spread from our previous drop shadow. And that makes that stick out a little bit better. And I want to keep my main text inside of this little this little dashed box here because that's my text and photo safe area. All right, so now let's check on our groupings, making sure everything looks good. And I think we have most of our elements here. I'm just going to double check. Oh, there's something else I gave y'all to an element. It's called a flare. So let's go ahead and add our flare from our assets folder. There's our flare. We'll just drag and drop it. Make it a little bit smaller here. And we're going to bring this all the way to the top, above our text, but of course below our template guidelines here. And one thing about this flare, you can make it a little more transparent. You can make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to place it right about there. Place one there, and then what I'm going to show you is how you can duplicate it. So we can right click, duplicate that layer. It'll be called flare copy, and maybe we want one up here. But this particular flare, let's drag below the photo. And see how I dropped it below the photo without putting it in the folder? If you notice, there's a double line that occurs. That double line lets you know that you're on the main level and not within a folder. If I see the highlighted folder there, that means I'm going to drop it inside of that folder. Right below it, I see the double line. Okay, so we can stop right there, but there's one more thing I want to show you, that we can make the smart color also be a gradient. You know how I feel about gradients. So let's double click on that smart color. We're going to go ahead and create from our adjustments. Let's go ahead and create a gradient. And I'll stick with the black to white here. Oh, this is actually going foreground to background. So I have that that seafoam color there. Let me go ahead and switch to default so that when I change this, it's going to go black to white. Now, black to white isn't really going to give us a real effect, but we can change these colors to anything we want to see. So I'm going to shift the white to the center here. I'm going to click on the black and bring one down here. So now I have 3 color stops. So let's say I want to go kind of like with the Gucci color thing, because I know he wears a lot of Gucci and Versace. So one of the Gucci color schemes has kind of like a green and red. So let's go with that, see how it looks. Let's go double click on the first color stop. I'm just going to make a darker red. And I'm going to let it stay there because I want to see what it looks like. Then let's do the green. I think we'll end up doing green on the outside and red on the inside. And I'm just making up colors. Usually I have like a color palette that I'm going to go from. So let's switch it up. We can move these colors around. If I want to repeat this color, I click on it one time, click somewhere else where it doesn't exist. Now I have like my green to red. Hit OK here. Turn off the previous color. And see how this affects our image here. Okay, so do you see how now it fades, you know, top to bottom with the green and the red? I think I'm going to do something a little bit fancier. We're going to double click on it here. Let's change it to a 45 degree. And just hit OK there. And see how that looks. All right, and you may be wondering why the smart color didn't change here on the long live and the Dolph. And that's because the smart color is right now panning the entire space. So if you want to concentrate it, you're going to go to the smart color that's above, for instance, the long live, do Control T, and we're going to shrink it down so that that long live is what we're focusing on. Recoloring there. And if you notice, now we have the recoloring with the red and the green. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger than the text, so then that way when we type something else, it still preserves that. Same thing here with the smart color here. Do Control T. We need to shrink it down. There we go. All right, and let's try a little bit different color here. Now we're going to go in and let's say we're going to choose 3 just really different colors. Color 1 might be, let's do maybe maybe a sunset theme. Let's just do like a dark red. And maybe an orange. Then maybe like a golden yellow. And as a matter of fact, I want to repeat this color. Here we go. Let's say yes to update those colors. And I think that looks pretty interesting, but I want to see more pure color in the background here. So what we're going to do is right above the cloud background, we're going to add a levels adjustment. And that's because if we turn this off, the sky is pretty light in color with the white cloud. So let's go ahead and create a levels that would allow us to adjust if we wanted this to look like dark colors or pastel colors. That's what the level is going to allow us to do. So I'm going to push this, the midtones here, I'm going to push it a little bit to the right, well, a lot of it to the right, so we can get our pure darker colors. And then I'm going to name this darker colors. So I know to activate this level whenever I want darker colors. So I'll turn it off. That's it naturally recoloring, and that's it if I change that level. Okay, so really and truly, that is, oh, I need to also, I'm going to show you how to create a layer mask. Take this one. So I'm going to create a mask that I can send to you. So let's do solid color. It'll be black. Now you won't have to do this. I'm going to give you this layer mask. Well, I'm going to give you this tool to make your own layer mask. Just right click. Oh, let's rasterize this color right now. And give the computer a little moment to think, oh, let me close out this Illustrator. All right, so this particular element I want to save as a PNG. So I'm going to call this Grunge Paint Mask. And I'm going to go ahead and export this. Right click. Oh, why did I rasterize the layer? You won't have to do this in class. The reason why I rasterize it is so that I could apply the layer mask. Which honestly, I didn't have to do it if I'm going to do it this way. If I'm exporting it as a PNG. But I'm going to show you why. Normally what I do is apply the layer mask to make it a smaller file, because basically the more layers and effects and actions you have going on, it makes your file huge. So if I apply the layer mask, it takes off all that extra data that was hanging off the edge, and it makes it just that little paint mask there, which is what you all are going to use. So we'll take our grunge layer mask, we'll drag and drop it. And what I should have done was dragged and dropped it on top of everything. And I'll show you why. Because what I just did was I broke up, and this may happen sometimes to you. You break up your clipping mask here, and you just have to create another clipping mask to make sure that that all points down to that layer. All right, so what I have right here is not essentially a layer mask. It's just basically a blob of paint right there on top of my image. I want to hold down Control and click the thumbnail. It selects all of those active pixels. I'm going to turn off that grunge paint mask. And now, before I do anything, let me go ahead and create a background. So my background is going to comprise of the Equalizer Waves, the cloud background, and the road background. I'm going to hold down Shift and grab all of that stuff together, group it, and I'm going to call this background. So now we're creating these folders. We're creating an organizational system to how we're going to be able to edit this file in the future. Now that I have these active pixels selected, I'm going to create a layer mask from it by just clicking on Add Layer Mask. You see how it cropped out everything that what does not belong within those active pixels. And if I turn off this blue layer here, you'll see how this appears as a 13 by 19. Pretty much ready to go. Okay. So that is essentially everything. I'm just turning the background white now that you will need to build this file. And you officially would have created a smart color. So let's go back. I'm going to change the smart color again. Let's duplicate. This time I'm going to change it to maybe a gradient that I already have. Let's see, what gradients do I have? Let's try this one. There we go. So you can imagine, being able to switch this up for whatever your purpose is. The whole point is that we've gotten comfortable with using templates for the most part. I want you to see that you can also design from scratch. I get a lot of requests from you all wanting to design from scratch. So I'm going to start incorporating more of those classes. Now, of course, I'll give you my template too. And the template's going to have some extra stuff in there. Oh, you know what? Let me go ahead. Let me do the young too. Let's do the young. That's what I forgot to do. I'm going to go ahead and type the text. I'm going to make sure I'm away from any existing text. So I'm all the way over here and I'm going to type the word young. Y-O-U-N-G. And for this one, the text that I'm going to use is, what font is it? Strong Girl. So I'm going to type in the font Strong Girl. And there it is. It's just a nice scripted font that's still very legible. I'll make the color black just so that it'd be easier to see it. And then let's make it a little larger. And place it right there. Now, I don't like to see script text in all caps. It really kind of bothers me because it doesn't look like it flows. So I'm going to take off the all caps here. Here we go. And then I believe I've given you an alternate. If I didn't give it to you, let me grab it for you. I have another effect that I created that I want y'all to use for this one. So style, the gold metallic trim. So let me give y'all that one. So it's a style called gold metallic trim. If I double click on it, or you know what, let me show you how to install it without double clicking on it. Because some of your computers won't, Photoshop won't know to automatically use Photoshop for that. So you have to go to open with. You'll look for Photoshop. You can put always use this to open that type of file and hit OK. And now when we go to effects, and we can go up to blending options, come all the way up to the top where it says styles. If I scroll down, I can see my gold with my metallic trim there. When I click on it, it automatically applies it to the text there. I'll hit OK. Hit enter. And then I'm going to take my smart color from the Dolph, Alt, click and drag it. It's going to go all over everything. I'm going to make sure that I clip it only to the word young. So right click and create a clipping mask. All right. And I'm going to make sure that it fits right over the young. All right, so it looks like everything is recolored. If I don't want the layer mask on here right now, all I have to do is right click and disable that layer mask. And there's our all over design. All right, so I want us to see that we can transform any of these elements, resize them how you might want. Of course, layer them in whatever order that you want. But this is essentially how this entire graphic is created. Okay, now of course it's been kind of pre-thought out, pre-planned, because a lot of times that's what's going to take up a lot of your time, but at least you know how to produce the steps to get the idea from your head onto Photoshop. All right, so I am just checking in with y'all just a bit. I'm going to end this live and we'll start another live in order to basically create. We're going to do a sublimation version of this and a DTF version of this so that we can get a live demonstration of how DTF works from Coach G from G Prince. Y'all have seen Gerard Kennedy. He's a part of our group and has been humbly working on his DTF and his graphics business that he's had for a very long time. But he's been quiet about this DTF thing, so we're gonna make him speak a little louder about what he knows, and hopefully he can share that with us. Why, thank you all. I'm glad that you like it, but I think you're gonna like understanding that you can do this as well, just as much as you actually like the end result. So I want to get y'all to fall in love with the process, really fall in love with what goes into making these, so that when you do have a template, you take full advantage of it. We have some folks that have told us they have done several thousands of dollars off of one single template, like the graduation template. And I'm elated to hear that, because I want for this to, be a place where you develop an understanding of Photoshop, using these tools, growing your business, and having high quality level designs and images that maybe you may not have initially came out with. So we're all working together, we're growing together, and I think that you're able to produce some fantastic results with even just a little bit of knowledge of Photoshop. All right, so oh, let me go ahead. I'm gonna paste the layer style, that drop shadow on this money too, just so it kind of pops out a little bit more. And I don't know if I missed anything. I think that's all I want you all to do in class, because this is a lot. I know I'm making it go fast, but this is a lot. I don't want you to think that that it's it's simple, but it looks complicated, if that makes sense. So I broke down the layers for you so you can bring them all in and understand the concepts, but it looks very complicated. It looks like it has a lot to it, but I think you will discover that once you kind of understand how these elements work together, that you'll be dropping images, drop shadows, layer effects, playing with blend modes, making smart colors, all of that good stuff in no time. Okay. All right, love. So I'm going to end this one. I know it's super late, and as a matter of fact, we have a lot to get going, but I am going to end this live and start another live not too long from now, where we'll be working with the DTF and basically printing the design. Okay. And I'm excited to see the DTF in action. Probably, most excited about the DTF than I am about pressing this as a sublimation design. Thank you. Oh, and to all the coaches, any coaches that are on right now, please identify yourself in the chat, and even feel free to do that once this video posts. Do it in the comment section of the YouTube video. Let folks know how they can get in touch with you, because I know that a lot of people have been asking about one-on-ones, or someone that can help walk them through a template, or you get stuck and you need some help. And that is specifically what the coaches are amazing at doing. They're very responsive, very friendly. They want to see you win just as much as you want to win. So the whole purpose of the coaches is that they are basically clones of me. when I cannot be there to walk you through certain things. So the coaches can do one-on-ones. They can even design PNGs for you. They have a license to take any of the Innate Lab templates and create artwork for you. And they also are able to walk you through creating the artwork for yourself. So if you're unsure of how to walk through a class or how to use a template or even how to design from scratch, the Innate Creatives group is probably where you're going to see most of the business partners and coaches work. But you can also check out our coaches corner that we have on this channel, where the coaches are kind of showing off their skills to you all. All right, now I promise I'm gonna have a little bit more energy when we start doing DTF stuff. But your girl is tired. I can't stop doing what we're doing though, because it's so much to be done, and I really am excited. And I really do appreciate you all for sticking it out with me, even on my late night hours, my late night crafting. All right, so I'm gonna end it right here. I'll check y'all in just a little bit. And if I don't get to see you tonight during the live, then I appreciate y'all. I love you dearly. And until next time, bye.